What's up? It's your boy Carcino here once again, and everyone is finally over the Chicago 2020 All-Star Game. Yay. Now let's get to the grease. Did you know when they select All-Star games, this is a process that happens 4 years out? It's done like 4 years in advance. It's spoken on halfway through a decade. 5 years out, they're having a discussion. They already know who's going to host the All-Star game all the way until 2024. So the next 4 years is already planned. They're already working on the next 6 years. They're always ahead. Now, the NBA All-Star game has always been a staple of the standard of excellence in the sport. You know, you always wanted that standard of excellence and say, you know what? This is for me. I'm feeling it. I love this. East versus West. We the best coming out of the Eastern Conference. We the best coming out the Western Conference. Let's make this happen. So all the world's greatest talent shows up and shows out in front of the world. And it was simply amazing. And being an all-star was based not on how many points you scored this year. It was based on impact on the game. You saw players who had an impact on the game. They had such a major moment in the playoffs that it rolled them into next year. And they had such an impact on the game that they made the All-Star game that year. Now it's based on how many points you're averaging and all this craziness that doesn't even make sense. Now, you look at the system of how it was back in the 80s. And Chicago had the All-Star game when Michael Jordan was coming into his heyday and he was the hot ticket in town. You know, young Jordan when he was high flying and dunking on everybody. And the Chicago Bulls were a team that was vying to get better, but they got the hottest star in the world in Michael Jordan. People are buying his shoes like crazy. We need to showcase him in Chicago. So, in 1985, Jordan's rookie year, they go into negotiations with Jerry Reinsdorf to try to get the All-Star game in Chicago in the next 2 to 3 years. They speeded up the All-Star game. 4 years out, 1988, the All-Star game is coming to Chicago. And it turns out to be one of the best All-Star games in the history of the sport. The 88 All-Star game when Dominique and Jordan are colliding and battling. They had the three-point contest where Bird wins. Then you had Jordan winning the dunk contest over Dominique, where everyone knows that Dominique got robbed. But still, it was a great duel. And even in the All-Star game, both of them had like 40 apiece. And they were battling for MVP of the All-Star game. It was just incredible. Then something happened. While we saw the glitter and the glitz and the lights, we never saw the problems. David Stern and Reinsdorf. Jerry Reinsdorf doesn't like to be told what to do. He just doesn't. He never liked it. It never fit him. It was never a part of something that he was proud of or wanted to be associated with. So now he spoke out when they tried to bring back the All-Star game back to Chicago. He didn't want it. He turned it down every time because he didn't like what happened in '88. They took over the building. The NBA took over the rights to everything that was there. They had control, even the season ticket holders in Chicago. Most of those guys are stockbrokers. They make good money, doctors, lawyers in the city of Chicago. And most of them are friends of Reinsdorf. And you're basically taking over their seats and putting them in a raffle to see if they can get. These are season ticket holders. And you're going to put them in a raffle to see who gets the, well, what seats will be available for them. These are season ticket holders. And all this going to do is tick off the fans. And he's like, you guys are screwing up my business, messing with my money. Yeah, you guys got a great show, but now I got to deal with the fallout of this happening. So they were going to bring the All-Star game around back in like 2012. Derrick Rose would have, this is back when Rose was in the Chicago Bulls uniform. Derrick Rose had just won MVP. The All-Star game was going to be in 2012. He had brought the resurgence back since Michael Jordan. So Derrick Rose would have had the exposure and the coming out party, Chicago. But I don't know if he was still hurt at that time. But that was the year. And Reinsdorf shot it down. He was bitter, still bitter about '88. And every time they tried to bring the All-Star game back to Chicago, he shot it down. When Jordan and the Bulls were going for their sixth NBA title, negotiations to bring the All-Star game back to Chicago before Michael left, no. Reinsdorf would shoot it down. They tried to force the All-Star game on him. Like, you're going to take the All-Star game. No, I'm not. I don't want it. And by the rules, they can't do it. But the NBA's ticked off because you're screwing it up with everything. This is a lot of money. The league has a structure and a system. So David Stern hated Reinsdorf. He thought he was a greedy, unselfish pig. He's right. This is a guy that didn't want to pay Michael Jordan. He is a cheapskate, to say the least. He was not in this to make the athletes rich. He was in it to make himself rich, which is why the Bulls have been what the Chicago Bulls have been for the duration of the period they have been. If you understand what that means. They haven't done nothing since Jordan hit that shot. over 20 some years ago. Now, Adam Silver comes along. Yeah, good old Silver Slipper, baby. Silver Slipper was there during all these times. All of the problems. He know the problems. He knows what Reinsdorf wants. He knows how to make this thing work. So he sat down with Jerry Reinsdorf and said, Jerry, I know what your problem is here. I do. And I get it. But Jerry, let's talk. This isn't going to go over well if you don't accept these all-star things. He's like, listen, your season ticket holders, we're going to work that out. They won't get tickets less than this position here. It's a whole different era. It's a whole different market. The markup value and the prices that we could charge for tickets are going to make the difference. You see, when you can upscale and make people pay through the nose, then this makes a lot of money and a lot of sense to Reinsdorf. So he claimed, oh, my grandson Joey, he's never seen one of these things and thought it'd be cool to have it here in Chicago. But no, it had nothing to do with grandson Joey. It has something to do with the market. See, the secondhand market, the prices were going through the roof. In 3 years, until their latest rebuild, the Chicago Bulls don't even have an all-star. Zach LaVine was in the three-point contest, and that was the only participant in the festivities this weekend. Now, things weren't never supposed to be this bad. Now, the management with Gar and Pax, or Pax Gar, whatever you want to call it, Paxson should have been fired about 4 or 5 years ago. Instead, they bring in another guy to back up Paxson because he's the longest running general manager to have produced the most littlest accomplishments in the history of probably basketball. Probably Steve Mills is probably the only one that's other than. But here's the thing. The Bulls have been further from anything. They are 19-36, and they're 0-19 against teams that's in the top 8 teams in the East. So all the playoff teams in the East, they're 0-19. They haven't won more than 2 games in a row all year. And they probably have like 1 victory against opponents above 500, if not for the Grizzlies, Serge. It's sad. It's a sad cry for help. And the Bulls season is a disaster in many ways. And Jim Boland, who I call Dumb and Dumber because he looks like Harry from doggone Dumb and Dumber movie. Jim Boland is the worst coach probably in basketball. I think Luke Walton is better than him. The organization, everything about it is humiliating to the city of Chicago. And the fans just don't get it. If you stay home, they will spend the money and get people out of there. And that's that. Sorry, take a swig. Seeing the Gar, Foreman, and John Paxson alliance, and for some reason Reinsdorf just won't fire Paxson. The Gar Forman experiment, having the two GMs in there, has not worked out. He's the first head coach they've hired who hasn't realized they're full of it. Then they said, well, you know, we got Dunn that's hurt, Porter's been hurt, Wendell Carter, and then marketing. Paxson, them have been getting by forever. I've seen the announcers in Chicago Chicago Bulls radio have more managerial sense than the people that's in the front office. Lori Marketing should have been moved a year ago. He shouldn't even be on your books. Lori Marketing had potential to be moved. Chris Dunn had potential to be moved. There should have been a package deal. Now you're stuck with an Otto Porter contract and paying him $20+ million. Is he worth that? They was like, man, did we miss the Thibodeau Rose days? And Paxson said, well, we can't really evaluate this team because of injuries. You got enough pieces. You don't have direction. Zach LaVine should be a guy that you got to work with and work around. He has potential. He could score 40 a night if there's a system in play. Certain nights he'll go for 40 one night, and the next night he'll have 11. And they don't realize that that's coaching. He doesn't trust the system, and if you watch them out there going around the whole globe and playing the way they're playing, you can tell they don't trust the coach. They're just out there playing like, look, screw this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So during the All-Star weekend, fans are putting up signs saying, fire Garpax. 86 Garpax. You know, people want them out. But this is why your team is what it is. John Paxson has been the general manager for probably 20 years. Or at least it felt like 20. It has brought you nothing but despair. And you screwed B.J. Armstrong out of the job that should have been his. That job belonged to B.J. Armstrong. He was more qualified, more educated, had more experience, and he knew personnel better. John Paxson was just a commentator. He had no relationships with the former players or collegiate players. He had no relationships in the game whatsoever. And they made BJ. BJ blew away the test, and they decided to hire John Paxson. So BJ stayed for a year. He's like, gee, BJ's going to be like under him, and, you know, they're going to work together. BJ was out of there. He's like, look, I'm not going to come here and not be paid and get the title I deserve and make Paxson look good. You know, it was disgraceful that Reinsdorf would put him in there. But who's his best friend? Jerry Reinsdorf. Oh, Donald Sterling. Let that sink in. Now, you be the judge. You make the decision. It's your boy Carcino. I'm out. Hopefully the Chicago Bulls fans get to see this video and realize that I just evaluated your team. You should already know where you stand. And don't forget to donate to the page. Hit that Cash App up. Carcino's the name on the Cash App, and everybody who has shown love to the Cash App, I appreciate it so much. I've seen a lot of you guys step up and do it. If you like the Streamlab, you can click the link in the description box and do that. And you could also, and I mean also, donate to the or join the Patreon that we have, Carcino for Life. I'm not even going to tell you what's on there no more. We did our live chat where I talked to all of the Patreons that we have on there, and that was cool to do that live and mention all my VIPs the way I promised. And we went kind of hardcore on some of the topics that we talk here, because you could talk very freely over there. And that's just that. So, love, peace, and hair grease. We out.